Have you ever noticed that when you think you're losing a part of who you are, you'll do something wild if it means proving you're not what you think you might become? Well, that's what Lincoln found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro. Today's episode is Roughin' It. In this episode, Lincoln and Clyde go on a camping trip after Lincoln thinks he's losing his manliness from growing up around all girls. As a guy, I can sympathize with Lincoln because besides his dad, well, kinda, he doesn't have too much of a male influence in the house. It's no surprise that he initially had no problem doing more feminine things with his sisters and practically blending in as one of them until it was pointed out how he was basically one of the girls. I can understand why he wanted to go into the woods with Clyde and try to reconnect with his more masculine side so he wouldn't fall victim to any sort of less than a man stigma. It may sound like a sexist mindset, but keep in mind Lincoln is still a kid and that kind of social stigma for boys is still very much alive. So he and Clyde ventured into the woods for what they assumed would be a basic camping trip, but things took a turn for the worse when they got swept down a river, got chased by a moose, got caught in the rain, and were nearly turned into bear food. It's at this point these two were able to avoid getting attacked by pretending to be dead, something Lincoln remembered Lucy doing at one point in the past. Then the boys managed to make it back to Clyde's dad's B&B when Lincoln remembered more tips he learned from his sisters. Speaking of which, the flashbacks, some of which are broken into two parts, were the best things of the episode. The first halves demonstrated some of the obvious girly parts of what Lincoln was doing, hence why he felt he needed to get away from his sisters in the first place, and the second halves pointed out how some of the girly things he was doing had a few helpful benefits. A few examples would be Lori's mud mask being used to treat poison ivy, and Luna's knitting accessories could be braided strong enough to be used as ropes. There were also a few other flashbacks with Lynn demonstrating how to move heavy objects, as well as Lola demonstrating how to walk straight without losing balance. He took what he learned from his sisters and used that prior knowledge and experience to his advantage, and he and Clyde were able to make it safely out of the woods. The lesson Lincoln learned at the end is one of my favorites throughout the entire series, and that would be how spending a lot of time around girls doesn't make a boy any less of a man. In his case, if he hadn't done any of those girly things with his sisters, he wouldn't have made it out of the woods alive. He learned some valuable life-saving methods from people he would have never expected, and he has his sisters to thank for pulling him out of a tight spot even though they weren't physically there. Overall, this episode is really good at reinforcing the moral of how you can be a boy who does girly things and you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. You can still be a man and do feminine things, and there's honestly nothing wrong with that. It's just like how you can be a girl and do boyish things like Lynn and Lana are known for, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of that either. This was one of Lincoln and Clyde's best adventures of the first season, the flashbacks were the main highlights, and the payoff at the end was just as good as the opening scene with Lincoln enjoying the dreamboat and not worrying about losing his masculinity whatsoever. This is one episode where you definitely cannot go wrong. With that said, I give Roughin' It a 9 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Roughin' It. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.